Mr Harris, can I first address some topics for discussion with yourself? Many third-level students have not received an authentic college experience. That's to be expected given the pandemic we are experiencing and the spiralling numbers of transmissions, particularly over the last few months. That said, can I ask the Minister to comment on the well-being of our third-level student population? In any newspaper article or study undertaken at third level, the demand for additional mental health supports is well documented and the strain placed on existing services is obvious. It's estimated that the demand for mental health supports have more than doubled during the pandemic. Isolation and online learning has taken its toll in that respect, but I understand why this is necessary. That said, can the Minister detail what additional supports have been made available for third level institutions throughout the pandemic in terms of additional counsellors, mental health supports, etc.? I note the Minister referenced earlier that the helpline number 50808 HSE 24/7 service is available for people suffering with mental health difficulties, but is there any other additional resources allocated to third level institutions? My second question, leading on from that, Minister, is I suppose you might say that I'm being a bit optimistic, but I'll ask it all the same. In terms of a return to on-campus activities, be it in a staged manner like we saw today with Minister Foley and Minister Madigan in terms of special education, are there any plans or is there any section in your department that is drawing up a plan or a blueprint for the return to campuses across the country, be it by the end of this academic year or to prepare for September? My third question is in relation to levels of dropout in college or from college courses. Have you any details about this? Have you any details that might suggest that the impact of COVID or being off campus has led to an increase in the number of dropout students from college? And just my fourth question, is just from Minister Collins. I noted your contribution earlier with regards to apprenticeships and upskilling, particularly as we try to recover after COVID in terms of strengthening and diversifying our economy. Can I firstly welcome the Government's apprenticeship initiative and its extension to the summer of 2021 to provide for allowances for employers with regards to taking on apprentices? That said, does the Minister have any detail in regard to how the number of apprentices, how many apprentices have been taken on in 2020 and how this compares with previous years? Has there been an increase or decrease in that regard? And also just to emphasise that the need for investment and prioritisation of apprenticeships in the leisure, food, hospitality sector post-COVID. As we all know in this chamber, sectors of this economy have been worst hit and worst impacted, and it would hearten many in those industries to hear what Government's intentions are in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Minister.
Thanks very much, and thanks to Deputy O'Sullivan. And I want to assure him I'm following up on the point he made about bursaries in Cork as well, and the significant year for Cork. In relation to wellbeing, in addition to that helpline which the Deputy referenced, 50808, we have increased mental health funding by €3 million. I appreciate your support in that regard. We've also doubled the Student Assistance Fund, usually €8 million in that fund, now €16 million, because obviously sometimes wellbeing can be tied to economic wellbeing. But as I have said earlier in my opening statement, I'm now establishing a group specifically to look at the wellbeing of students and to continue to monitor that. And rather than it being chaired by department officials, I want it to be chaired by students, by the USI, and I think that's important. In relation to the return to campus, we have published a framework at what can be done at each of the levels of the plan to try and provide as much certainty. We meet every Friday morning at 11 o'clock with our stakeholders, including students, university leaders, college leaders, the FET sector. The first priority is to basically try and resume things that can't be done online. So practicals, apprenticeships, and supports for vulnerable learners. But I do hope we'll be in a very different academic year by the new academic year as well. In relation to dropout, the HEA tells me that they haven't seen a significant increase in dropouts, very similar to last year, but they are due to provide me with a report which I'll be happy to share with the Deputy.
Minister Collins.
Thanks, Ceann Comhairle. The Deputy asked in relation to the numbers who took up the various apprenticeships. I don't have that detail to hand at the moment. Suffice to say that during the year 2020 there was naturally a drop-off due to COVID and the impact of the pandemic in terms of the number of people who took up apprenticeships and applied for apprenticeships, and that was part of the reason why we introduced the incentivisation scheme to which I alluded to in my earlier remarks. But what we will do is I will respond to the Deputy and we will get him an exact breakdown on the numbers who entered each of the various apprenticeships right across the range of apprenticeships during the year 2020 vis-à-vis 2019.